Ordinary time, week 26, Sunday year. C. September 28th. Amos 6, 1-4-7. 1 Timothy 6, 11-16. Luke 16, 19-31. Reflection by Reverend Father Clifford Atta Anim, sharing God's blessings and the consequences of neglect. This Sunday's readings warn us that selfish and extravagant use of God's gifts without showing mercy to the poor is a grave sin that leads to eternal loss. Wealth by itself is not condemned, but wealth without compassion is. The scriptures remind us of our covenant duty. Blessings come with responsibility, and God expects us to use them for the good of others, not just ourselves. Luke 12:48. Scripture lessons. First reading, Amos 6, 1-4-7. The prophet Amos speaks a sharp word to the complacent wealthy of his time who enjoy luxury while ignoring the suffering of others. He announces that such people will be the first to go into exile. This echoes his constant theme that justice and mercy must flow like a river. Amos 5:24. Responsorial Psalm, Psalm 146. The psalm praises the Lord who secures justice for the oppressed and gives food to the hungry. Verse 7. God himself defends the poor, and we are called to mirror his compassion. Second reading, 1 Timothy 6, 11-16. St. Paul exhorts Timothy to pursue virtues, righteousness, devotion, faith, love, patience, gentleness, and to compete well for the faith rather than seek riches. Christian life is a race for holiness, not a race for wealth. See also Hebrews 12, 1-2. Gospel, Luke 16, 19-31. Jesus gives the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man is not condemned for being rich, but for ignoring the scriptures and refusing to help the poor man at his gate. This parable dramatizes what the law and the prophets have always taught. Mercy to the poor is not optional, it is required. Deuteronomy 15, 7-11. Life messages recognize we are all rich enough to share. God has entrusted each of us with something. Money, health, time, talents, social influence, or a combination of these. The parable challenges us to share our blessings rather than hoard them. As St. John Paul II wrote, we are all called to give, not only of what we have, but of who we are. Novo Millennio Inunte 49. Remember that sharing is the criterion of the Last Judgment. In Matthew 25, 31-46. Jesus reveals the 6 questions by which we will be judged, all of which concern how we treated those in need, feeding the hungry, welcoming the stranger, clothing the naked, visiting the sick and imprisoned. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. V.40. See Lazarus today, including the unborn. Lazarus is not only the homeless and the hungry, but also the unborn child whose life is at risk. Pope Francis has called the unborn the most defenseless and innocent among us. Evangelii Gaudium 213. If we ignore their cries, we become like the rich man in the parable. God will hold us accountable for how we treated the smallest and weakest among our brothers and sisters. Psalm 139, 13, 16. Choose eternity wisely. Our present choices shape our eternal destiny. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, Jesus warns, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Matthew 6:19, 21. Where we go after now will determine where we end up hereafter. Like the rich man, it is possible to live in such a way that we no longer fit into the communion of heaven. Conclusion. Today's readings are not meant to frighten, but to awaken us. God's gifts are meant to flow through us to others. If we live with generosity and mercy, we will inherit the joy promised to those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Matthew 5:6. If we close our eyes to the poor, we close our eyes to Christ himself. Let us then compete well for the faith, 1 Timothy 6:12, and live each day as faithful stewards preparing for eternity. God bless you.